Jordan Lujan, and I am doing a presentation on schistosomiasis. Um, and I'm going to look specifically at the organism Schistosoma japonicum. I'm hoping I'm saying that right. There's plenty of words in this presentation I will most likely say incorrect. And here is a little animation of these parasites that are moving around and infecting some tissue. Alright, so let's move on. Alright, so the name of the disease is schistosomiasis, and the organisms are called schistosomes that cause this disease. They are also known as blood flukes. There are about 7 that infect humans that are, known to use us as a reproduction type of medium. But there are 3 main ones, that being S. japonicum, S. hematobium, sorry, and S. mansoni. However, hematobium is more in Africa, and mansoni is more in Africa and also South America, I believe. They were discovered in 1904 by Dr. Fujiro Katsurada, and he later gave them the name as well. However, the disease that is caused by the worms, the trematodes, the disease has been noted far before he actually discovered that that's what caused the disease. So this is the doctor who discovered the organisms that actually caused the disease that was being seen. Here is a map that shows where you can find these infections, and if you see that there is the purple is mansoni, the greenish is the hematobium, the black regions are a mixture of the two. So again, you have a lot of the mansoni and hematobium in Africa, a little bit in the Middle East as well, up there in the Egypt and beyond a little bit. However, if you notice, most of the I guess the other shade of green, which is the japonicum, is over in East Asia. And if you notice, there isn't any in Japan, but there are some regions in China, and there are some regions down in like the Polynesia, Malaysia, Philippines, etc. area. I'm covering up Australia, my faces, but there are no cases in Australia. There's not really any cases in North America either. This is actually can be a detriment to people who get the disease, because so say you have a tourist who goes to Africa, or a tourist who goes to South America or parts of Asia. Well, they may be infected with the schistosomes, and when they go back to North America, or maybe even parts of Europe, a doctor might see it and say, they might not see the parasite at first. They might just see these symptoms and be confused and give an initial misdiagnosis, because those are not things that are normal to North America and Europe as much, or parts of Russia, etc. So, of course, after doing some simple lab tests, you can find out what the actual cause is. So, so say someone says, "Oh, I have some stomach pain and a headache," they might go in to see a doctor. Doctor might say, "All right, well, you probably have this or that. Maybe a flu or something. Maybe you have just some other bug that's giving you diarrhea." So, tourists tend to get this disease, but it's very easily treatable. I'll get to all that towards the end. All right, here is the taxonomy. You can see on the left the kingdom Oncomelania, phylum Platyhelminthes, that is flatworms, class Trematoda, order Diplosomida, might have said that one wrong. Family Schistosomatidae. These are long, interesting words. Genus Schistosoma, and then the species I'm looking at is S. japonicum. And you can see on the right a DNA comparison, and you can see that japonicum actually is separate from, as far as the DNA is separate from the hematobium and the Mansoni, which I would say makes sense based on the geographic scale, because the hematobium and the Mansoni are in different regions of the world. So really that only makes sense. Oh, and I forgot to mention, but I guess I'll mention it now. On each of my slides, near the bottom somewhere, I have in parentheses a use a sorry, a person who conducted a study. So down in here it says Luo et al. 2019. I have a works cited slide at the very end you can look at if you want more information. So I will continue now. So there are a few different egg forms. So S. mansoni you can find in the stool usually, and it is known for having the spine that is like that. It has a lateral spine, meaning sticking out the side. S. hematobium you find in the urine has a terminal spine or medial spine. I've seen a couple different ways they describe it. And then S. japonicum you can find in the stool. You can also find in urine actually, but there are no spines on the japonicum. Uh, it is round. Now, I was trying to find a reason why, and as far as I can tell, there's not a real reason to have a spine or not to have a spine. They think that it's possible that the lack of a spine in the japonicum allows it to move quicker. Also, they think that some researchers believe that the spines for the other ones might allow them an easier way to clump together, maybe for protection or some sort like that. But the spines don't seem to serve a major purpose as far as anything, because they do not actually use this form to really attach like they do as adults. So the spine isn't as useful as it would appear when you first look at it, but possibly the japonicum is actually able to move quicker because of the lack of the spine that might get caught on something or might clump with other cells possibly. Okay, so here we're going to look at a brief form of the life cycle and some anatomy, and also talk about how it reproduces a little bit. So we looked at the egg at first, then it goes into a form called the miracidium. So the miracidium actually infects a intermediate host before it gets to us, the humans. The intermediate host for japonicum is going to be the Oncomelania snail. So let me see here. Yeah, the Oncomelanium is the snail that it infects. Hupensis is the Oncomelania hupensis is one of the most notorious ones, and so it will infect there where it will actually mature, and eventually the cercarium will come out of the snail, and the cercarium is actually what will infect humans. The main way you get infected is from water, just being in unclean water, basically. And unfortunate for us, these can actually penetrate straight through skin. They do not have to look for an open wound or something like that, and they just pop off the top part of the cercarium, and then it will grow into the full adult form. Now, the schistosomes are a little bit strange compared to some other worms because they have a distinct male and female form. They are not hermaphroditic, And as you can see in the picture, the male form is a little bit larger. Um, the female form is a little thinner and a little bit longer. But as far as mass goes, I believe the male form is slightly has a little more mass. Also, the male form has a little cavity that allows the female form to sit into, and a male and female will actually bind together, and they will become mates for life. So very interesting as far as worms go. Now, something interesting too is Hematobium and Mansoni. They will lay maybe 100 eggs per day, approximately, in the body, whereas Japonicum can do thousands of eggs a day. So Japonicum, not so nice at all. So the snails, they can also be killed pretty easily. About 15 to 20 of the uh, uh, Miracidium can cause mortality, high mortality rate in the snails themselves. So just a little interesting fact. Now here's another picture of the life cycle. So as you see, it shows some intestinal wall capillaries. So what happens is the eggs can go from there and come out in feces. They can also, for Japonicum, can go out of the bladder, so can be found in urine. The mature eggs will find a intermediate host, that's the snail. That is where the Miracidium will go into. They will mature even more, go to their next stage from the snail into the Cercaria. And as I said, they will just penetrate through the skin. They do not have to look for an open wound. They do not go through the mouth either. A lot of other parasites you have to ingest somehow, usually from undercooked food or if you're drinking dirty water. But again, these you just have to be present in the water, and if they find you, they can just go straight through the skin. And then again, the top left picture, you will have an adult and a adult male and adult female, and they will mate for life and create eggs again inside your uh, blood vessels. That's why they're called blood flukes, because they like the blood vessels. They will also go through the portal system. They'll go to um, the lungs, the brain sometimes. They will go to the liver, etc. So some symptoms of the disease. There's quite a bit. On the left, the picture, you can see some little bite marks or the entries. This is sometimes just called swimmer's itch. Um, and the swimmer's itch, it just hurts for a couple days or so, maybe a little bump, just like a normal, almost like a normal bug bite, more or less. So then after that, that can go away a little bit. However, you'll start developing other symptoms, and you can see the boy in the middle has an inflated stomach because, again, they live there. It can cause all sorts of issues in the intestinal system, cause diarrhea. Um, and again, because they can get in the urinary system, that means they can also affect the reproductive system. So some of the other symptoms you can get are infertility, you can get renal failure, intestinal issues, pulmonary issues, dyspnea, for example. You can even get in your brain, you can get neuroschistomyces, and that can cause all sorts of neurological disorders. Um, and another one is eosinophilia. So we have white blood cells called eosinophils that specifically try to go after helminths, and you can cause too many of them to appear, and that can cause tissue damage within your body as well. And so the entry, again, just through water, and you can see here on the right is just a little family unit, it appears. This picture appears to be in Africa compared to like the middle picture, the child looks Eastern Asian. So the children playing in the water, if the mother is collecting water to later boil at the village, or possibly she's doing laundry of some sort, or maybe the kids are just playing, or having their form of a bath possibly in their village. Um, it's very easy to get infected. So now the treatment, there's drug treatment, sanitation, snail control, and just other forms of sanitation through engineering, the cleaning the water. So you can have where you use the bathroom and things like that. Since the eggs get expelled, so once the adults lay eggs in your body, the way they get expelled from your body is through feces or through urine. So in some of these villages, they might happen to urinate and defecate in the same areas that they normally walk through or possibly store food or something like that. And with proper sanitation, they can keep contamination on their food products. Also, you can see this drug on the right, praziquantel, is used as a antihelminthic, and what it does is, from my understanding, from what I read, it messes with the muscle contraction of the helminths. So the muscle contractions can mess them up, and it can also have to do with their ability to attach. So usually the males are the ones that will attach to the intestinal wall, and again, that's because the males have a cavity for the females to sit inside them. So the males are the ones who also have to attach to the walls. And also, it appears that the praziquantel can cause apoptosis by creating blebs in the cell walls and everything. And it has a very quick half-life in humans, so the drug isn't that uh, toxic to us. And excess of the drug will just be expelled through urine. So that is one way to help treat. So Japan. Going back, if you remember the map I showed near the beginning of the video, Japan did not have any occurrence of the japonicum anymore, even though the japonicum is named after the Japan region. Well, that is because Japan used sodium pentachlorphenate. I believe I said that right, NaPCP. They used it for snail control, and what they did is they ended up killing off a lot of the intermediate host, which did not allow the schistosomes to reproduce. Now, this, in addition to better treatments, sanitation, and things like that, were able to eventually eradicate the schistosomes from Japan. And from what I read, they eradicated them in 1994, but there have been a lot of measures to make sure that there's not as many cases there anymore. And occasionally some cases do pop up again, but a lot of times that's from people who might go from Japan to China or might go from Japan to one of the other island countries, and they might get it and bring it back. However, usually it's detected pretty quickly because the Japan has a bunch of systems in place to identify and treat this disorder very quickly. And Japan, being a first world nation, really helps compared to Africa, for example. If you remember, the map at the beginning showed Africa had schistosomes all over the map, and that is because a lot of Africa is still developing, and they do not have all the same luxuries that countries such as Japan would have. So I believe that is all. And here you go. Oh, I did forget to mention the size is roughly 1 to 2 centimeters at full length. So once they're inside you, is whenever they will grow up to that size. Usually closer to the 1 centimeter size. If they get too big, they get a little too big for their britches, and they a little bit of competition can occur as well. So they usually stick a little bit to the smaller size. That is all.